Story 1. The Woman by the Hard Shoulder. I've been a long-haul driver for close to a decade now. You name a motorway in the UK, I've probably driven it blindfolded. But I don't take the M6 at night anymore. Not after what happened 2 years ago. Not after her. It was mid-November, cold and damp. That kind of night where your breath fogs up the cabin and the road disappears into mist. I was heading north from Birmingham to Carlisle, hauling furniture for a last-minute delivery. I'd left the depot late, around 11:30 p.m., hoping to beat traffic. But the roads were nearly dead by the time I hit Staffordshire. Just me, a few lorries, and a thick darkness that swallowed the headlights. The motorway at night is a strange place. You start to feel like you're floating through another world. The hum of the tires, the hypnotic flash of white lines, the occasional sign glowing in the distance. It does something to your mind. I remember checking the clock, 1:08 a.m., when I first saw her. At first, I thought she was a plastic bag caught on the barrier, but as I got closer I realized it was a woman, standing just beyond the hard shoulder, close to the edge of the woods. She wasn't waving. She wasn't walking. She was just standing there, soaked, barefoot, wearing what looked like a hospital gown or a long, pale dress, too thin for the freezing air. Her dark hair was plastered to her face, and her arms hung stiff by her sides. I slowed down instinctively, put my hazards on. I'm not heartless. If someone's stranded or in trouble, I'll help. But something about her stopped me from pulling over. She wasn't trying to flag anyone down. She wasn't reacting to the car at all. She was staring into the trees, as if something was in there. I rolled down the window halfway, leaned over the passenger seat. "You all right, love?" No answer. The rain picked up, ticking hard against the roof. Then, she turned. Slowly, too slowly. Her face came into view, lit briefly by my high beams. She looked pale, ashen, lips blue. Her eyes locked onto mine, and I swear to you, I felt cold crawl up my spine, like my blood had frozen. Then she smiled. God, that smile. It was wrong. Way too wide, like she didn't know how to smile like a normal person. The muscles didn't move right. My hand shot to the gear stick. I didn't think, I just drove. Hard. Wheels spun before they caught, and the truck lurched forward. I didn't look back. I couldn't. About 15 minutes later, I pulled into a Services. Heart hammering. I needed a coffee, a cigarette, anything to settle my nerves. The place was nearly empty. Just one other lorry in the far bay, and a guy wiping down tables inside the Costa. I sat there for a while. Engine off, rain pounding the roof. That weird smile was stuck in my head like a splinter. And then, I felt it. The weight. Like someone had gotten into the passenger seat. I whipped my head around. Nothing. The seat was empty. But it felt occupied. The air was heavier. My breath came out shallow. Then I looked at the passenger side window. There were drip marks. From the inside. As if something wet had been sitting there. I jumped out, ran around to check the door. Locked. It had been locked the whole time. I didn't sleep that night. I parked up in Carlisle and sat in the truck, lights on, engine running, until the sun came up. The next day, curiosity got the better of me. I posted on a driver's forum, asked if anyone had seen anything strange on the M6 near Junction 15. Within an hour, I got replies, dozens, people describing the same woman. Same spot, same behavior. But the worst comment was from a guy who said his cousin had picked her up once. Thought she was injured. Gave her a blanket and called an ambulance. By the time the ambulance arrived, the cab was empty. The blanket was soaking wet. And there were muddy footprints leading to the back door. But never away from the truck. They say she was a patient. Escaped from a psychiatric hospital nearby. Walked barefoot into the woods during a rainstorm in 1973. They never found her. But she still stands there, watching, waiting. And if you slow down, she might just get in. Story 2. The car that followed me, it was late. One of those nights when the motorway feels like a long, empty ribbon stretching forever. I was exhausted after work but grateful for the quiet road as I eased onto the M25. The drizzle streaked my windscreen, and the rhythmic wipers kept me company. For a while, everything was calm. Then a pair of headlights appeared far behind me. They closed the distance unnervingly fast. Before long, the car was glued to my rear bumper, its high beam stabbing into my mirrors. I shifted lanes to let it by, but it mirrored me. I slowed down, it slowed too. The unease settled deep in my chest. 10 tense minutes passed. My fingers clenched the steering wheel, and every nerve screamed at me to do something. I spotted signs for a service station and decided to pull in, hoping the lights and security cameras would put an end to this. When I indicated, the car copied me exactly. My mouth went dry. I parked under the brightest light, trying to act normal. The other car stopped 2 rows back, engine humming. I stayed put, pretending to scroll my phone while my heart pounded. Then the driver's door opened. A tall figure in a hood stepped out, motionless at first, staring in my direction. My skin crawled. Seconds dragged on like hours. He tilted his head as if studying me, then began walking slowly toward my car. Each step felt deliberate. Panic surged. I jammed the keys into the ignition, floored the accelerator, and shot out of the car park, tires screeching. I didn't dare look back until the service station was long gone. When I finally reached home, shaking, I thought the ordeal was over. But as I walked to my door, something caught my eye. There was a piece of paper wedged under my wiper. No message, just a rough drawing of a car. My car. I moved away weeks later. Even now, I never take that motorway after dark. Story 3: The Vanishing Lorry. It was close to 3 a.m. when I started my drive on the M1. The fog was so thick it felt like the road was floating in nothing. My headlights lit only a few feet ahead, and the motorway was silent, with no other cars in sight. The eerie stillness made me uneasy, but I kept going. About 20 minutes later, I noticed headlights appear behind me. They grew larger until a huge lorry was practically on my bumper, its high beams glaring through my mirrors. I moved to the left to let it pass, but it stayed behind me, close enough that I could hear the roar of its engine. No matter how fast or slow I went, it matched me exactly. My hands gripped the wheel so hard they hurt. Finally, the lorry swerved and overtook me, thundering past before disappearing into the fog. I exhaled, thinking it was over. But minutes later, the same headlights appeared in my mirror again. The same lorry, the same engine roar. My stomach tightened. I knew it was impossible, yet there it was, pressing closer. Then, as suddenly as it came, it vanished. The road behind me was empty. My heart pounded as I drove on, afraid to stop. 10 minutes later, the headlights appeared ahead of me this time. The lorry was parked sideways in an emergency lane with its hazards flashing. I slowed down, scanning the scene. The cab door was open. There was no driver, no sound except the tick of the hazards. I didn't stop. I pressed the accelerator and drove until my hands stopped shaking. At the next services, I told an attendant what I'd seen. His face drained of color. He told me accidents had happened on that stretch for decades, all involving a lorry that lost control in the fog and killed its driver along with others. People say it still appears to lone drivers, vanishing as suddenly as it comes. I got back in my car, trying to convince myself it was all in my head. But the next morning, when I returned to my car, I saw 3 words written in the dirt on my windscreen: "Keep driving back." Story 4: The Phantom Hitchhiker. Last winter I was driving on the one around 2 in the morning, heading home after visiting a friend. The road was nearly empty, just occasional headlights flashing by in the opposite lane. The night was cold and windy, and the trees lining the motorway swayed like dark shapes against the sky. About 30 minutes into the drive, I saw a figure ahead on the shoulder. As I got closer, I realized it was a man wearing an old army jacket, thumb out like he was hitchhiking. I slowed, unsure, but something about him seemed off. His posture was rigid, head down, not even looking at the cars. I decided to keep driving, but when I glanced in the mirror, he was suddenly gone. No one on the road behind me, no one in the grass. My heart skipped, and I told myself I must have imagined it. 10 minutes later, the same man appeared ahead again, standing by the shoulder. Same clothes, same stance. I gripped the wheel tighter and passed without slowing, eyes locked forward. I didn't dare look back. When I stopped at a petrol station to calm down, I asked the attendant if there had been reports of a hitchhiker on the road. He froze, then told me quietly that years ago, a soldier died walking home on that stretch after his car broke down. People say drivers still see him, always ahead of them no matter how far they travel. When I left the station, the road was empty. But as I merged back onto the A1, my headlights caught something in the rearview mirror. The man was sitting in my back seat, just for a second, before fading away like mist. I drove the rest of the way without stopping once. Story 5. The service station that wasn't there 2 years ago. On a late drive from Leeds to London, I took the M1 and expected an uneventful journey. It was past 1 a.m., and the motorway was nearly empty. After 2 hours, fatigue crept in, and I was desperate for coffee. When a sign for a service station appeared, I felt relief and took the exit. The slip road curved into thick fog. Eventually, a dimly lit station emerged. It looked old, with peeling paint and a single pump. A small cafe glowed faintly. I parked and went inside. The air smelled of mildew, and the place was empty. There was a lone man behind the counter, head down. I asked for coffee, but he didn't respond. When he finally looked up, his eyes were cloudy, almost gray, and his voice cracked as he whispered, "You shouldn't be here." Before I could ask anything, all the lights flickered and went out. Panic rose in my chest. I stumbled back to my car, heart pounding, and sped off without looking back. The road twisted until I rejoined the motorway, shaking. Hours later, when daylight came, I told a colleague about the strange, crumbling station. His face went pale. He explained that the service station I described had burned down 20 years ago after a gas explosion, killing the staff inside. The exit was sealed off shortly after. That night, I drove past the same stretch in daylight to prove myself wrong. There was no slip road, no sign, and no trace of any station. Just trees and an unbroken barrier. I haven't taken that route alone since. Motorways at night can feel endless, almost comforting, until the darkness begins to play tricks on your senses. The stories you've just heard are shared by drivers who swear they experienced them, and many refuse to drive alone after dark again. Next time you find yourself on an empty motorway, with only the hum of your engine for company, keep your eyes on the mirrors and the shoulders of the road. You never know what might be out there, waiting just beyond the beam of your headlights.